Well, we have had a day, haven't we? Perhaps your brain is a jumble of thoughts and ideas like mine is. Here to help us frame the issues and the tasks ahead is Jonathan Turtellow, the CEO and portal editor of the Destination Stewardship Center. I know Jonathan is familiar to many of you. He's been fighting the good fight for a long time as a consultant, journalist, and editor. He founded and for 9 years ran National Geographic's Center for Sustainable Destinations, which continues today as the independent Destination Stewardship Center. Not only has he been a great friend to sustainable travel, but he's been a great friend to me. Jonathan Turtellow.
Thank you, Nori. And by the way, we need volunteers, so if you're interested, let me know. I'm supposed to wrap this up, and after all these things we've heard today, and given that we're running late, I could just say, oh, wow, and sit down. But that would be copping out. We do have a situation, and as Samantha noted this morning, an emergency exists. There's a black cloud inside the silver lining of all the nice things we heard today. We've got climate change underway, we've got growing over-tourism, and we've got what Greta Thunberg so vehemently said at the UN a few days ago, the fairy tale of eternal economic growth, at least the way we've been doing it. So my challenge to you, as I run through a few of the high points we heard today, is think about how every one of these things can be scaled, because we must move the needle if we're going to change the way the world works, and that's kind of what we're up against. So as quickly as I can, I'm going to run through a few high points from the day, excuse me, beginning with Andrea Holbrook's Learning Center, which I loved hearing about, and also evidently accidental singles bar internationally. But what I liked about it was the idea of a library. We need to have more of these. People come and go, books abide. And as we know, we need to have more permanent facilities all through the world about what we care about. James Thornton gave a very inspiring talk about what Intrepid Travel is doing, and my takeaway from that is travel with purpose is good for business, what he called conservation capitalism. We need to export that idea. In Belize, going into Impact Tourism Pioneers, we had Dana Krauskopf talking about how a resort following good ecotourism principles can support the local community and educate local youth, preserve cultural traditions, and protect the environment. But what was really striking was the way the wellness program for their own staff can filter out through much of the local community and the whole country of Belize, 170 links, she called it. In the United States, Will Chaffforth talked about the National Park Service, what Wallace Stegner called America's best idea, and in particular, the importance of getting, even though a lot of these parks are already suffering from over-tourism, some of them, the importance of getting new demographic groups into it, that young people are particularly essential. People do not care about what they have not experienced or known. So it's very important to get both minority groups and young people involved in the parks and what the parks are all about. In Jamaica, Chris Blackwell told us one of the first cases where tourism helped create a marine reserve, actually restoring a dead reef, which is no small accomplishment, and also the way music and tourism interacts. There's a lot more we can do with that, I think. People like music. Let's see if we can put it to use. In Oregon, and this is my personal area of interest, the destination-wide programs, Kristen Dahl demonstrated how the M in DMO can stand for something other than marketing, and we're beginning to see more of this change. The M should be standing for management when it's ever possible, and how taking the long view with broad collaboration across the destination can work and enhance it, and particularly the importance she's learned of building trust, particularly between the different stakeholders and the private and public stakeholders who are often at odds. In Cape Cod, Jill Talladay told us about the impressive accomplishments of her largely volunteer and philanthropic organization and of the limits that that puts on her. There's a need for real funding, especially from DMOs and from tourism businesses. And in my opinion, I think every destination needs a care for organization, and it should have a reliable source of funding, and that would include some from the bed tax. That would be revolutionary. We need 50,000 care fors, not just one or two. In Costa Rica, Janelle Williams told us similar work in Monteverde community, and as a destination-wide philanthropy program, that gives them the leverage to do some destination-wide projects that are much harder to do on a single benefactor basis. And in Kenya, we had Claudio Barango Ogoti talking about how philanthropy alone can't do the whole job, but that the basic ecotourism principles that support and engage and empower local communities are essential. In BC, we have Cody Nelson showing how ecotourism may be able to beget wellness tourism that's not only good for the visitors, but good for the local people of the community, and he does want to scale that all the way across Canada and maybe beyond. In India, Menu Vedera showed us how a foundation can work with a for-profit to empower a disenfranchised group, in this case women, with something as simple as beginning to supply transport, airport transport for G-Adventures and building from there. Now, at the donor level, we have Neely Grobani, who showed us how purposeful educational travel can not only fund just causes, but also create new world movers and bridging communities in the process. And also in the donor travel area, Catherine Redigan showed how you can match donor transformation with community transformation. And I loved hearing about this because in the travel media for years, we've all been talking about the importance of transformational travel, but it's been about me, me, me. No, it has to be about the place as well. And that provides a very beneficial interaction and helps create better world citizens again. Jim Sano told us a very simple lesson. Travel finds new donors, and it increases donations from existing donors. Keep it up. When we get to CSR, and I was impressed by some of this. These people are moving the needle a bit because they are big corporations. How well they're moving it, we'll have to see. But at Hilton, we heard Caroline Meledo told us of their goal to have the environmental footprint and double social benefit. That's a fourfold increase. And at Marriott, a similarly aggressive program for nurturing, empowering, sustaining, and supporting human rights, and showed examples of how they're doing so. And in the Skyways, we had David Rivard from Airline Ambassadors International, which is a membership group of workers from the airlines mainly. That's interesting. We should see more of those from other corporations, perhaps. And the humanitarian work that they're doing, particularly in human trafficking. And our last panel on voluntourism, we had in Puerto Rico, Carmen Portela showing how voluntourism accidentally happened to them and ends up through relief tourism beginning to build a, what you could call a resilient, sustainable tourism ecosystem where the industry leaders for the first time are saying, yes, we need to look at sustainability. That at least moves the needle there. And in your suitcase, but probably not mine because it's too full, Pack for a Purpose turns travelers into what you could call the mules of the angels. Sorry. But it brings the right stuff to the right places, and that is so often what not happens. So this is a major change in the way we can do things. And from Cambodia and elsewhere, Claire Bennett shows us how the way they learned about what doesn't work, that buildings don't teach students, people teach students. We see this so often in the development community. Those buildings set up with foreign aid and there's nobody there to take care of them. and how that led to their Give, Travel, and Live model for building better and more aware, proactive global citizens. So I'll wrap it up with this. When you look at all of this, we're talking about care for places and for the people who live there, and that includes the third rock from the sun. So thanks very much, and hope I got through it fast enough. What now? Oh, yes, I forgot one very important thing. We're going to see a video. And I am told this is a committee effort by the board of CREST. And at the end of it, I hope you're going to see what the world would be like without Martha Honey in it. Ready? Yeah.
At this time, I'd like to ask Mike Robbins, CREST Chairman of the Board, to come up to the podium, as well as the other members of the board here today, Alice Marshall, Andrea Pinnabell, Andrea Holbrook, Ella Meserly, and Mary Elizabeth Gifford.
Hi, everybody. You're only minutes away from enjoying some Bethel Heights wines and 3-star brewery beers, so bear with us for a moment.
You're surrounded by women.
There are 4 other members of our board who, 4 other members who couldn't be with us today. They are with us in spirit. Dr. Martha Honey is a giant in the field of responsible or truly sustainable tourism. After years of living and working as an investigative journalist and sharing adventures, and I truly mean adventures, with her husband Tony In East Africa and Central America, Martha Honey returned to the U.S. in the early 1990s on the crest of the ecotourism wave. Of course, it was natural for Martha to then turn her investigative journalist mind to researching the economic, environmental, and social promises of this new concept called ecotourism. Her seminal book, Ecotourism and Sustainable Development, Who Owns Paradise, published in the late 90s, was the result of her extensive research. And this book pointed the way for many of us professionals in tourism seeking a more sustainable way forward and future. The United Nations General Assembly designated 2002 as the International Year of Ecotourism, presenting the opportunity, in their words, to review ecotourism experiences worldwide in order to consolidate tools and institutional frameworks to ensure its sustainable development in the future. The World Ecotourism Summit was held in Montreal in May 2002, and CREST was first conceived in that year, in 2002, by Martha, along with her friend and colleague, Professor William Durham, when Stanford University hosted a conference for ecotourism thought leaders and professionals working in Central America. In 2003, Martha and Professor Durham co-founded what is now referred to as CREST, set up initially as a bi-coastal institute with offices at Stanford University and in Washington, D.C. Today, CREST is a unique policy-oriented research organization dedicated to increasing positive global impacts from more responsible forms of tourism. Today, the board of directors of CREST are here to celebrate Martha as she retires from her impressive 16-year career at the helm of CREST, helping to transform the way the world travels. I was honored to be asked to join the board of directors back in 2011. In fact, very excited to have the opportunity to be involved with Martha and Bill, two of the leading pioneers in what I knew was an increasingly important direction for global tourism. Today, I'm really pleased, as the chair of the board, along with my fellow board members, to present the first annual Martha Honey Legacy and Responsible Travel Award, an award that from here on will be awarded annually by the CREST Board of Directors to someone in the global tourism industry felt to be making a significant difference in pushing the envelope in responsible travel. Thank you, Martha, for your strong, dependable, and unrelenting leadership at CREST over the past 8 years that I've been on the board. I'd like you to join me in welcoming Martha up onto the stage to receive the first Legacy and Responsible Travel Award and to have her opportunity to say a few words.
Look at this. Okay, I've been told it's heavy. Thank you. The only thing I knew was that I was going to be handed something heavy. I didn't know about any of the other. Oh, and yes, I was told to wear blue. But thank you all. I'm really overwhelmed. I'm really, really overwhelmed. And I'm afraid I'm going to stand for a few minutes between you and the wine and beer, if that's okay, because there are a few things I'd like to say, some of which Mike has already said probably much more eloquently than I can, but I have a written thing that I'd like to share with you. First of all, I want to pay special tribute to the board, but especially to Mike Robbins. There are many reasons why nonprofits thrive, and one of the most important is the quality of board leadership, as we see here. Mike has been an extraordinary advocate for CREST, passionate in our mission, wise and helpful in steering us in important opportunities, and always thoughtful and steady in guiding his colleagues on the board and in supporting the staff. No doubt some of his secret sauce comes from his country of origin. Canadians are known to be respectful, kind, thoughtful, dependable, and even-keeled. What a concept. And Mike exemplifies all of these qualities. Mike, I thank you for your leadership and your friendship.
Thank you.
As I officially step down from Crest and pass the torch to our able new ED, well, he's not so able now, but he will be. And he's already, I must say, Dr. Craig Miller. And he already has been making his mark on Crest. He's been on the job since the 1st of August, and I think all of us have been really impressed by the way he's taken over his willingness to learn where we've come from and his willingness to drive Crest into the next era. And so this is all really makes all of us feel very reassured, and we just wish Greg well and hope that he'll be back in command very soon, but he must take time to recover. Over the last few weeks, I have been, not surprisingly, reflecting both upon the arc of my life and the arc and future of Crest. Let me touch on both of these. In terms of the arc of my life, I grew up in the 1960s in Westport, Connecticut, and I was propelled, I believe, by three forces. One was a fear of boredom. I believe of being trapped as a housewife in a wealthy suburban community where it often felt as if the pursuit of privilege was the only thing that mattered. Second was a moral compass that I attribute to both my parents and to my Quaker roots. From my earliest days, I remember that the main thing my parents expected of me and my brother Tim and my sister Margaret, both of whom are here today, was that we live ethically, work hard, and strive to make the world a better place. And of course, as a child of the 60s, social and political activism was in the air I breathed and embedded in my DNA. In high school, I took part in Quaker work camps, which today would probably be undoubtedly be called voluntourism, in Spanish Harlem, Appalachia, and elsewhere. During college, I spent my summers as a volunteer in the civil rights movement in Mississippi and Alabama, doing voter registration, teaching in a freedom school, and being a cub reporter on a new civil rights paper intended to bridge the black and white communities. While the work was often difficult and at times scary, I felt very privileged to be an eyewitness to this momentous social movement. After college, I worked with Tony Avirgan, now my husband, and Judy Chomsky, my dear friend, to found the Philadelphia Resistance, a grassroots shoestring organization that opposed the Vietnam War. We supported young men who refused to be drafted and GIs who refused to go to the war. These activities gave me a clear perspective that the deepest form of learning is experiential, beyond the classroom, a lesson that has remained so relevant in Crest's work in responsible tourism. A third guiding principle of my life has been a desire to see the world. I trace these roots to my childhood passion for stamp collecting. I was mesmerized by the small, beautiful images from exotic, faraway places, Zanzibar, Mozambique, Peru, Ceylon, and so on. And I've been fortunate that these small bits of paper from my childhood then came to life through my travel in adulthood. I'm also very fortunate that I found a life partner, Tony, who shares my values and has willingly roamed the world with me. And now I feel even more fortunate to see that our three children, Detta, Shanti, and Jody, all here today, have grown into engaged and principled adults, themselves all doing good work to help make the world a better place. It was these travels and living around the world for 20 years in Tanzania and Costa Rica that eventually brought me to the concepts of ecotourism, sustainable tourism, and responsible travel. And this has become my life work for the past 2 decades or more. By living and traveling widely in Africa and Latin America as a graduate student and then a journalist, I came to understand that travel offered not only great vacations, but also, if done well, good livelihoods for local people in developing countries while protecting their culture and natural landscape. But I also saw the dark side of tourism done badly: prostitution, environmental destruction, black marketeering, exploitation of indigenous people, the spread of AIDS, and so on. And I became convinced that since we're not going to stop people from traveling, we need to develop the tools to travel more wisely and respectfully so that the destinations and their local communities can benefit from this industry. I also became convinced that we need to do more rigorous analysis of the tourism industry. Tourism has often not been taken seriously, erroneously viewed as for fun or a smokeless industry. But as the world's largest service sector and the world's largest employer, tourism clearly requires serious study in order to fully understand the problems and pitfalls and to come up with effective solutions. And so this brought me to start, as Mike conveyed, in 2003, together with Dr. Bill Durham, my friend and colleague at Stanford, not colleague, but friend and professor at Stanford University, to start CREST, the Center for Responsible Travel. For me, CREST has been far more than a job and a paycheck. Rather, the last 16 years, we have created an organization, perhaps project is a better word, designed to prod the tourism industry towards more sustainable and responsible practices. Our toolkit has included solid, academically rigorous research and analysis, fieldwork, publications, films, media and social media outreach, and public forums such as this one today. CREST is, I believe, unique. We had a clear mission, which is, we succinctly state, to transform the way the world travels. In fulfilling the mission, we have taken on some of the more vexing issues facing tourism, increasingly including developing and promoting certification programs and best practices in order to measure tourism's environmental and social footprint, supporting indigenous peoples' right in the face of wanton tourism development, dealing with climate change and over-tourism, promoting impact tourism, formerly known as travelers' philanthropy, and analyzing the costs and benefits of different types of tourism: high volume versus high value tourism, cruise tourism versus ecotourism, and trophy hunting versus wildlife viewing. Our goal has been to provide deep analysis and critiques of the problems, as well as identify innovators and solutions that protect the natural, cultural, and human resources upon which tourism is based. We were enormously fortunate that at CREST's inception, we had financial support from the Ford Foundation, where our program officer was Mike Conroy, who is here today with us. Mike himself has been a leader in the field of certification, and Mike later became a board member of CREST Board of Directors, a member of CREST Board of Directors. He is here today with his wife, Lucy Atkin, who was by coincidence my college roommate. And, and in recent years, Ford and a handful of other foundations have provided vital support for CREST field projects. In addition, I was fortunate during CREST's first decade to have as my chief colleague David Krantz, who brought an impressive travel experience, fluency in Spanish, a kind heart, great competency, and a recent degree in sustainable tourism from GW. David, who I believe is here today, he was? Yeah. There he is. Was central to our success in the early years. But CREST's financial and institutional trajectory has not always been smooth and upward. As so many nonprofits did, we really struggled during the 2009 economic crisis. Fortunately, in these last years have been a period of growth and expansion. I attribute our success more than anything else to my hiring of Samantha Hoganson Bray back in December 2013. She also was fresh out of GW grad school and was one of 150 applicants for a CREST position. As I was wading through the application mountain, my decision was made much easier by Jonathan Turtellow, for whom Samantha had worked. He told me bluntly, "You'll be crazy if you don't hire Samantha." I listened, and per usual, Jonathan was right. Over the coming years, Samantha and I worked very hard together with our board, and gradually we put CREST on a much sounder financial footing. We were able to expand our staff with equally committed and competent young women, Kelsey Frankiel, Rebecca Stewart, and Ellen Rue, all of whom have worked hard on today's event. We also expanded our human capital by creating an honorary board with tourism leaders like Elizabeth Becker and Chris Blackwell, a network of consultants and experts, including Janelle Wilkins in Costa Rica and Rafael Betancourt in Cuba, and after Bill Durham retired, an academic affiliates program that today includes some 36 universities, including Stanford, and professors from a wide variety of disciplines. Finally, a word about the future of CREST. I feel I'm stepping down at the right time. CREST is stronger than it's ever been, with a great board and staff, and we have a number of really impactful programs and projects and other exciting ones in the wings. Yet there are, of course, uncertainties and unknowns, particularly about the current political and economic landscape. In terms of the tourism industry, we at CREST believe that that tourism is facing two great and critical challenges: climate change and over-tourism. CREST is focused on both these issues, along with strengthening impact tourism, so that it becomes an integral part of the definition of responsible travel and a core component of the tourism industry. In closing, I want to thank my colleagues at CREST and many of you who have been collaborators and friends over the years, and have helped me to. And I ask you to help in carrying on the legacy of CREST and its mission of transforming the way the world travels. As is widely said in Africa and Latin America, the leadership may change, but the struggle, la lucha, continues. Asante sana, muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Martha. You've inspired us all and shown us the way. I now challenge everyone here and those listening to honor your legacy by continuing your mission to transform travel into a force for good. In the soaring building dedicated to peace, with a roof reminiscent of the wings of a dove and a view of the Lincoln Memorial, let the words of 16-year-old Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg inspire us. It is still not too late to act. It will take a far-reaching vision. It will take courage. It will take fierce determination to act now, to lay the foundations where we may not know all the details about how to shape the ceiling. In other words, it will take cathedral thinking. Friends, the 2019 World Tourism Day Forum has come to a close. On behalf of CREST and the OAS, I'd like to thank our speakers and moderators, the Honorary Host Committee, and our sponsors for making this event possible. Our platinum sponsors are, I know I have to read them because they've supported us. Our platinum sponsors are Intrepid Travel, so just a few more minutes. Intrepid Travel and the Nature Conservancy. Gold sponsors are the National Park Foundation, Wilderness Safaris, and the World Wildlife Fund. Silver sponsors are Hilton, Holbrook Travel, Marriott, National Audubon Society, and Tourism Cares. A special thanks to the CREST and OAS staff, interns, and volunteers who worked tirelessly to bring you this program. Samantha Bray, Kelsey Frankiel, Ellen Rue, and Rebecca Stewart of CREST, Santiago Noboa of the OAS, interns Emily Ganem, Cassie McCabe, Chris Gillespie, Grace Klopp, Ariel Klein, and volunteer Shelby Lutzi, Kira Austin, Taylor Ruoff, Dahe Hoon, and Rachel Gates. And finally, we are grateful to you, the audience, for your enthusiasm and attention. Now we can party. Okay, that's it. I'm done talking. Thank you.